Congresswoman Schrier and Congressman Dustin Johnson on the Republican side was very helpful as well. I'm very honored to be here with the author, Mr. Garamendi, the chair. Here's Kim Schrier of Washington State. I'm just referencing you, John Garamendi, the author of the legislation, which we're very proud. Mr. DeFazio, the chairman of the Committee of Jurisdiction, advocating for this. Congresswoman Schrier, of Washington State, Wyoming, Benton, from the Energy and Commerce Committee. Mr. Costa has been on this case for a while. Thank you, Mr. Costa, Mr. Carbajal. In other words, 4 Californians standing here on the whole West Coast, Washington, Oregon, and the rest, because we have seen clearly the need for this legislation, and we're very proud to be sending this strongly bipartisan legislation to the President's desk. This week for us is Affordability Week, how we can lower costs. And lowering costs means increasing supply, and supply is definitely affected by holdups at our ports. So this legislation will crack down on unfair shipping practices, level the playing field for exporters, making it fairer for them, and bring down costs for working families. So there are exorbitant shipping fees are impeding the flow of key products from our ports, and some of those fees really contribute to the cost to the consumer. So leaving cargo to wait at the dock, or driving up costs again for consumers. Nearly 100 trade organizations have recently wrote to Congress that said this, and I'll quote them: "This legislation will help ensure U.S. competitiveness and lead to continued economic recovery." I would add to that, lower cost for the consumer. So with gratitude to Mr. Garamendi, Mr. Chairman DeFazio, and Mr. Costa, Mr. Carbajal, and Congresswoman Kim Schrier, as well as Dusty Johnson, I am now honored to sign this important legislation.
If I could, I just had some news today that I think would be relevant.
Well, let me just sign, and then we can.
Yes,
okay?
I think the press would like to hear about it.
I'm sure. So now please yield to the chair of the committee.
Well, last year the shipping industry made more in profits than they did over the last decade, and they just reported their largest quarterly earnings of $49 billion for the first quarter of this year. So they're on track to have, yet again, record profits. This bill is going to begin to deal with this price gouging and unfair pricing.
That is good news. I mean, it's not good news that they did it, but it's good news that it is in the public domain and people know. So now let's hold up this important legislation to point out a solution to what you just described. It really is a tragedy that there's so many who have decided they're going to exploit the marketplace, that COVID has contributed to the problem. Because of COVID, supplies have been down, and again, the need for product to come into our country.
And Madam Speaker, to underline the Chairman's comment, the 10 largest container shipping companies in the world control over 80% of the shipping, and they're all foreign owned, and 2 of them are state-owned in China. So that really, I think, underlines Peter's comment.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. Mr. Garamendi, author of the legislation.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to look in the back of this room. I see some extraordinary staff. On my staff, Ian Hart. I see on the Peter staff, Matt, back there. They really did the legwork in making this happen. Writing the legislation, making sure that it was properly formed, and then a lot of the contacts all around both houses. And so Ian just picked up his camera back there, and that's hiding back there behind the desk. And maybe other staff here, but they did an extraordinary piece.
Perfect job, John.
Here, here.
Madam Speaker, since we're recognizing staff, I would be remiss to not recognize Mr. Matt Dwyer, who is the Director of staff for the subcommittee that I chair, which is the Coast Guard and Maritime Subcommittee. And he's worked on these issues for many years as well, so we recognize him.
Congressman Schrier, some words?
First of all, this matters a ton, especially to the apple and the hay exporters in my district who have been struggling with high fees, with not knowing when ships are coming, and they need this ability to crack down. And I would like to thank you on their behalf, and also thank my staff for their contributions. Thank you.
If I might, Madam
Well,
Speaker.
I was just going to invite Robert Edmondson to wave on our staff. We did so much on this. And why don't we have a picture with the staff? Come on up here, because everyone has been
While
acknowledged.
they're coming up, those of us that have been working on this bill know that this would have gone nowhere without your support and your leadership, and you're making it possible to fast track it and get it done. So thank you.
I do always say more needs to be done, and we have some ideas in the house about that. Okay, now we're going to have.
Right there, you fit in there. There.
But this is very important because, again, all of us who represent areas where shipping is part of the economy, I watch the ships come in from my
Would this be San Francisco?
Yes, home of the Golden State Warriors.
Oh, yes. What a game last night.
Good game last night. But it's funny to see the flow of traffic coming in, how many containers coming in, how many containers going out, and how many, because that really makes a difference, how many are actually flowing. As you can see, this bill is more than one page. Just to demonstrate to you that it is. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for your leadership. Now from here to the President.
To the President.
For signature.
Thank you.
We're very excited
Thank you.
about that. Thank you. And then you get the pens. This is Simon. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, staff, for making it all happen for us. We know that.